3, 2, 1. Represent my son. Show him how it's done. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, welcome to the Shape the Culture podcast. I'm your host, Arthur the Poet. With me, I have my lovely co-host,
Caitlin Elizabeth.
Today, we're going to talk to you about creative entrepreneurship. With us, we have
Allie Rice.
And we're going to do a deep dive into what creative entrepreneurship is by way of
honoring the creative community. And by honoring the creative community, we're here to diminish competitive energy and build a collaborative environment.
That's a lot of words. Basically, what it means is we're going to collab. We want to teach you what it means to be a creative entrepreneur. Some of our struggles, some of our wins, some of our losses. And we're going to have fun along the way, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
Here for it.
All right, so let's start with our first topic. All of us are different creatives. Let's introduce ourselves so the audience know a little bit more about us. And then we'll get into, like how we got started.
The who are you portion of the show.
Who are you?
Yes.
Who am I? As I said, I'm Art the Poet. I am a writer. I'm an artist. I've sold over 400, way more than 400. Over 4,000. Wait, no. 40,000 comic books. I've also made...
Going once? Going to 40,000 we're landing on? Okay.
Yeah.
I sold over 40,000. They are Black Villains Wanted, Agent Solo, Tainted Love. The list goes on. If you're an independent comic book creator, you should already know about me. If not, you should have read my books. They are on sale everywhere. I'm also an independent filmmaker. I've won a few prizes for some short films here and there. Not to brag, but over the course of doing these things, and I'm also a poet. I founded the Colorado Springs Poetry Slam. I realized it's not about me and what I accomplish. I'm getting old, people. And with that, it's like, yeah, I've accomplished some things, but I'm at that point now where I want to create opportunities for other creatives. So it's like I lost the ego along the way, and I really have devoted my life towards creating platforms and letting people's voices be heard. Building that community.
I would say you're a conduit for creating those community connections. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. You bring a lot of different people together from different backgrounds. Yeah. I've met a lot of people since meeting you.
Absolutely.
Now I'm blushing. I'm just going to run away.
I've had so many different opportunities. For real, I have.
And this goes back to what Caitlin was saying about building those communities and the collaborative, efforts among creatives and business owners and so forth. As well as fans. You don't have to be a creative to be a part of this community.
Yeah, you don't have to be a starving artist that has no friends,
Oh, that's a good... We're going to talk about the starving artist with no friends. That's sitting in the corner eating cheese.
No. You don't have to do this alone. No. Or if you are doing it alone, that's where the problem is.
And that's what we're here for, to create community.
So enough about me.
I'm Caitlin Elizabeth. I'm the owner of Kate Space Limited. I do a lot of art groups and programs in recovery community. So I basically am just teaching healing art and trying to provide as many opportunities for people to access that without having to pay for it.
I like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What do you learn in that space? Because I know you're teaching, but what have you, one of the things you've learned about yourself in that process?
The connections are as important for me as they are for the people I'm trying to create connections for. So it keeps me active in a supportive and encouraging environment. And the more my groups are available to people, the more people I get to meet, and other people start doing spin-off groups, and they're creating different little art sectors, and then at the end of the day, we're all creative, right?
That's true.
And so now we have outlets. So the biggest thing for me is community and people.
I love
It's a
that.
full circle moment.
Yes, it is.
It's a circle of life.
The circle.
Yes.
I used to work with a guy named Simba, and we used to sing the Lion King song all the time. He was like, "That is not funny." He was from Nigeria. He's like, it's an insult if you keep talking to me like that. He was like, "In the jungle, the mighty jungle." He didn't like that. That's a great segue to
Allie, welcome.
Yeah, okay. My name's Allie Rice. I'm the founder-owner of Rect Collective, which is an upcycled clothing company. I also am the host of Artisan Alley Market, which I host. It's a monthly artisan market. I host over 20 vendors, live entertainers at Cottonwood Center for the Arts downtown. So those are my main 2 entrepreneurial gigs.
Really impressive. How did you get involved in that with all the vendors and everything?
Yeah.
Well, Artisan Alley is a partnership with Cottonwood. So when I started Rec Collective and I got a studio inside Cottonwood, that's when I started having the partnership with Cottonwood.
Okay.
So Cottonwood said, okay, we're going to bring you in, give you a studio where you can make clothes for Rec Collective, but we also want to provide you with a secondary business opportunity with us. They can help both of us out. We want to bring more artists into Cottonwood. We want more people around town to know about Cottonwood, and we think you're the person to make this monthly market happen.
That's awesome. That is really connecting the community.
It is.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Cottonwood and where they're located?
So Cottonwood Center for the Arts is downtown Colorado Springs. I'm trying to think of like what businesses it's next to because it's kind of off of Tejon, right? Like,
Yeah, it's by Triple Nickel Bar, which was on Bar Rescue. By the way, fun fact.
Okay.
So Google it.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have so many artist studios. I think they have 70 studios
They
that
do.
local artists can set up shop in there, and they have access to the entire building. Like I have keys to the building, which is amazing, and keys to my studio. So everyone can come in and out of the building as they need, create art as they need. You can be in your studio at 2 a.m. making art if you wanted to be.
And that's really beautiful and something for me as a newer artist that I didn't know was available, right? And I think that ties into some of this collaborative environment that we're trying to build, which is telling artists who are new to this, whether it's art or art groups or whatever it is, that there's a lot of stuff we have available to us.
Exactly. And there's communities out there. It's just a matter of
finding them. Yeah. Because when I first moved here, I was like, there's no art, there's no culture. And then 4 years later, there's all this art and culture. It's everywhere.
Exactly. Part of that was the pandemic deal.
Yeah.
Because I moved here during the pandemic, so nothing was happening. Mm-hmm. But even 2021, 2022, it's still, I was like, where is it? Where's the scene? I can't find it. Eventually I found it, but like...
I feel like once I found it, which for me has just been very recently, within the last like 6 months, but once I found it, it was like, oh my God, it's everywhere.
Yeah. It becomes part of your life.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Now, with the Cottonwood, real quick, one of the cool things I like about that space is they have artist talks. And I didn't know what the word artist talk was. And apparently, you know, it's an artist talking about their work and their journey. And it's a beautiful thing because the people's backstories are what interests me.
Right.
You can create a piece of art or write an amazing novel or whatever, but the process of you creating that's more interesting to me sometimes than the final product.
It also ties into like healing, and I teach healing art, and so when we share, we're actually healing. We get that, we're able to process out loud with other people, and we don't know the kind of people that we might be reaching. Somebody hears our story and they're like, oh my God, I don't have to be a starving artist. And that inspires other people.
Let's stay there for a second with the starving artist. And 2024 going into 2025, with our advances in technology, a lot of things are easier for people to create. Whether it's a music video, a song, a fashion label.
People can Canva and CapCut
it's
and
easier.
ChatGPT.
What do y'all feel? Do you feel that people still have to live by that stigma of being a starving artist?
Absolutely not. I think that the starving artist is because of a lack of community. And I think that culture has really shifted in the last year.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page with that. I don't think you need to be a lonely, starving artist, like just not being able to figure it out. Like there's community out there that you can connect with and do it with other people.
At what point, because I'm an artist, but I'm mainly a writer. And a lot of people are like, oh, can you do this for free? Can you do this for exposure? What point do you go from, okay, I'll do this for free or for exposure, to I need to get paid?
That's a really personal journey, but what a lot of new artists don't realize is there are a lot of grants that are available. There might be some instances where you just have to decide if it's worth it. Like if I'm gonna be at a place that 50,000 people are gonna go, like the Mind Body Expo, and I can talk about my art group, I can give out free like mini groups, that's probably worth it. But at the end of the day, like I really have to define my time to a certain extent, right? What is my time worth?
Yep. Because I remember talking to you, and you're like, because I was like, you ought to sell this, sell your art. And you're like, my main focus is on teaching. I want to teach people. And I'm like, you know what? I respect that.
Yeah.
You know, because it's easy, you know, not easy, but, you know, a lot of people are so focused on selling, but they're not like, how can I teach people so they can create? If that's what they want to do with their art and sell it, that's cool. But my main focus is on, you know, helping people heal, help people, you know, spark their creativity.
But if your focus is to make a lot of money off of it, you have to be realistic at a certain point, right? You can't be like, well, I am just gonna market myself really, really hard for the next 6 months, and I'm gonna sell so much art that I'm gonna have enough money to do these other things. That's not realistic. So for me, I would love to sell some of my art. Right now, what's realistic is grants for teaching art, right? And then over time, as I'm able to build some sort of income out of that, then I can take some time for myself and maybe sell some art. But you gotta kind of shift your priorities in a way that makes it so you're not starving or selling your.
Allie, are you starving?
I'm not starving yet. But getting paid for the amount of work that I put into the 2 businesses I'm running, I don't necessarily think I'm making enough to like make a living off of. So I have other ways that money is coming in, but I also don't have a solid like plan for long term and how this is gonna work out.
See, I like that honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm just like flying by the seat of my pants and trying new things, and every opportunity that comes my way, I basically say yes to. If I think it's going to be helpful for the community, or if it supports my business mission, or if it supports community building.
Have you thought about maybe just stepping outside of your comfort zone and just doing the things that you're already doing for free at some point, telling people there's been an increase in demand for what I'm doing, so I do have to start charging. I feel like a lot of people that are supportive, especially that are already using your services, would love to support you in that way. Mm-hmm. And once you start that with 1 or 2 or a handful of people, eventually that's all that money coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like that. One of the things, and we were talking before we started recording, I was saying, it's like, Allie, it's so cool. I was like, I want to protect her. But one thing I learned, when it comes to business, she knows her ish. We were meeting with a business owner, and the business owner was throwing an event. And the business owner was like, oh, I've charged vendors, what, $150?
I think it was $125 and up. That was her like lowest price point.
Yeah. And Allie was
some
like,
she was selling for $500. So
this is true, depending on where you are in that little
and
part.
she was saying she was having a hard time selling all of the booths.
Of course.
Yeah. At that point, she only sold, I think, 10. And then Allie went into business mode. She was like, no, I know this community. This community, these vendors are not going to pay that kind of money. No. At the most they will pay is $75, and that's if it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, she's shifting into business mode now.
Yeah, cool.
But
I like it.
she stood up for the local vendors and makers in this community and ended up convincing this woman, like, what you're doing right now is not going to work. Your event is in August. We're in mid-July.
Right. It's time to pivot, and
you have to
pivot quick. Yeah.
I love that, but you like really shifted your mindset into a business focus, and also like in a way standing up for local community.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I was like so like proud. I was like, yay!
Yeah.
She was like, that's not gonna fly.
And it's not fair to the starving artists, the people who can't afford. Not many people can afford to pay for a booth. Even someone like me who's been in business for over a year and a half now, I'm still very new. Yeah. And I'm still not going to pay $125 for a booth. And all my vendors that I work with, all the creative community that I know through all the markets I do, they're not paying that kind of money.
And so I wouldn't be able to pay that.
You have to be sensitive to the culture and like the local, I don't know what the word is.
And there's other businesses like mine where like we just wouldn't have the capacity to do that because we aren't charging people money for the stuff that we're doing. So it's like $500 to just be somewhere like, I mean, it'd probably be really good turnaround, but at the same time, that's not something that's really accessible.
Right, yeah. And if you're selling like $30, $40, $50 items and you only sold 3 things that day, and it's like, oh, you could be losing money doing that, and that's just tough when you're starting up and you're trying to be at markets, sharing your stuff and meeting the community.
Right.
Like those little losses, those are hard.
Yeah, it is. And it can be discouraging and kind of set you back and maybe I know I've seen people like give up for less than that.
Oh yeah, I've seen people do one single market and not make money and just be done.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
You do have to continue doing the thing, even if it doesn't make you money always. You're still planting seeds every time you do an event.
And I think
or something like
what
that.
you're talking about ties back into what the purpose of this is. When we create community, we're not going to fail because we have people that can encourage us, and they can say, hey, oh my gosh, I've been there. I've done an event and I've lost everything. I've spent money.
But it's okay. You
Yes.
learned something and you met somebody or something was set in motion during that's going to take you to the next step, whether you realize it now or not.
Exactly.
You probably aren't going to realize it in the moment. It's going to be hindsight's 2020 when you realize what happened.
I like that. And you're right. Some people will go to one event. I didn't sell anything. Give up.
Yep.
And it's
heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, and it shows that some people are creatives. That's their wheelhouse. They're great at that. Some people are entrepreneurs. And when we look at merging the two, some people can't do it. Some people are like, hey, I will sew this and make all these cool jackets and stuff. You handle the business parts of it. Yeah. You promote it. You sell it. It's just not a skill set that some people don't want to learn.
But again,
or two,
back to the community.
Yeah.
We can leverage that with the people around us. You're really great at marketing, right? I'm really good at leading my art groups, and you're good at everything you do. So. But as we get into this community aspect, right? Like, I can ask you for help for marketing or whatever it is. I can ask somebody else for help with administrative tasks because I just don't want to do them.
Right.
How hard is it?
That is my least favorite thing.
Yeah.
How hard is it for people to ask for help?
Very hard.
Oh, really hard. Like, I've definitely struggled with asking for help. And losing a business partner in the last month, I've been forced to ask for help. And that's like a growth. I'm like growing from that. Like,
it's
asking for help and like getting out there and being like, okay, here are my problems. Can you help me with any of them? Like, normally I would not want to share my problems, but if it's just you, you got to.
It's very vulnerable.
And when you have other people, like I was telling you the other day, I have all these vendors I'm responsible for, people that I'm bringing together. I am responsible for that, and like I have to take care of them and whatever. If that means being uncomfortable and getting out there and asking people for help, that's just a part of it.
In recovery community, we talk a lot about that as far as growth. If we're not uncomfortable, we're not growing. And that applies not just to recovery community, that applies to all of us. Yeah. But I know that just between meeting the two of you, like I feel like I can take on more stuff. Like, it's not as daunting.
Oh yeah, I feel the same way. Like, it's more daunting, even just like I was telling you, going around town and passing out flyers and talking to strangers. Like,
and not too many people do it.
But I'm gonna do it because I know it's
nothing to it but to do it.
It's worth it. Mm-hmm. And like, this is my third month doing it now, and the business owners are recognizing me. They remember me. I tell them about my event every month and come visit them, and we have new conversations every time.
I love that.
And I'm like, this is worth it, even if it is not the greatest. Like, I'm not necessarily getting paid to do that. Yeah. It's worth it for the connections I'm making and the business owners I'm meeting.
And
I
those
learned
connections
from y'all.
go with you.
I like how organized y'all are.
Like, I do like having like a partner in crime.
I would go with you.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it was fun.
Yeah, she has a whole list of all the businesses downtown. I was like, forget your list. I know where to go.
I'll take you to a new list.
I told you, you're like a conduit.
Yeah. So we found some new spots.
I learned one thing she does. She'll invite them. You know, it's like, hey, here's a flyer. You should come.
You're invited.
Yeah.
Like, so not just going up to people and expecting them to market for you for free or help you for free. Be like, no, I want you there too. You should come. Like, and they like their smile, their face lights up. They're like, oh, I'm invited. Oh, okay, let me see this. What is this?
I think we all want that validation that like we're important enough to be invited, right? Like instead of just let me just post this flyer for something I know nothing about.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I learned from Caitlin is when you go to a lot of these like wellness classes and so forth, they're like, we got to play our yoga music and soft relax. And she's like, no, we're going to put on some hip hop. I'm going to listen to what She was like, there's nothing about wellness or healing or anything that says you have to only listen to one kind of music.
I think that just goes back into like a creative headspace, right? So like when I'm doing art or teaching art, it's more about the vibe. And so like I try to ask people like, what do you want to listen to? Not everybody wants to listen to medicine music. So we don't want to do Gregorian chants while we're doing watercolor. And so I think the class you attended, we were listening to Neo Soul playlist, and That's just what it was. But there's, different stuff for different days, I guess.
Before we get to the next segment and talk about gatekeepers, and obstacles, you do a lot. One of the things, the art that you were teaching us, I forgot the name of it, forgive me, but you told me you do some kind of geometry type artwork as well.
Yeah, I teach neurographic art primarily, but I do a lot of work with sacred geometry art. And so there's a certain power in sacred geometry. If you research it, if you're doing a meditative art or a mindful art activity, there's different meanings to different sacred geometry. I guess like the most commonly known sacred geometry is the seed of life, the flower of life. It's like multiple
I've heard of that
circles. Yeah, you see it a lot at yoga studios. But yeah, as we're meditating, we can really start to manifest things in our own lives, right? If we're focusing on this mindful activity with the intention of I'm going to manifest using my voice more or whatever. We're putting those thoughts into our head and we're creating new neural pathways so that it will happen that way for us.
I love the way she talks.
Oh. Yeah. Is there like a recent manifestation that you've like had happen that you were like, oh yes, I made this happen?
Yeah. And it sounds, when you put it like that, it sounds like something that's like kind of crazy. Like I'm just charging crystals in the sun.
It's not crazy, no.
But I charged my crystals yesterday.
Yeah, right. But there was a couple art groups ago. I was thinking about the chakras in the body and the throat chakra and using my voice. So I was actually drawing the Sanskrit word for the throat chakra and just kind of thinking about I speak my truth. I stand in my truth, and the things that come out of my mouth are my truth. And so doing that really helped prepare me for actually doing this today, right? This is something I never thought I would do. But actually before this, I did the open mic night at the Poetry Slam, which I was not going to do. And
she got on stage.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and so at the time when I was manifesting this whole using my voice thing, I wasn't thinking about the Poetry Slam.
Right.
I was literally just thinking about having courage. But looking back, I did all of these things after that because I had already put that thought into my head.
Exactly.
You got out of, you used that season of being uncomfortable to become comfortable with things.
Yep. Yeah. And it ties back into the neural pathways. So through repetition and positive thinking, we create new neural pathways. We create new patterns in our thoughts. So I'm doing the art, I'm thinking the thoughts, and then I'm putting them into action. And that's where manifestation comes from. It's not just...
You need all three parts.
Yeah.
The action part is
right.
That's what I tell people. Because they're like, manifestation. I'm like, where's the action?
Yeah.
It's like people that pray. I'm like, that's cool if that's what you want to do, but where's the action behind the prayer?
Right.
Yeah, you want to be a millionaire? What are you doing to become a millionaire?
Exactly.
Speaking of what are you doing? Great segue, by the way, Allie.
Yes, that was
Let's talk about these struggles. Who's keeping us from reaching our goals? Are we keeping ourselves from reaching our goals? A little bit of everything. So, let's each talk about like some of the struggles we face.
Do you want to start us off?
Gosh, the struggles I faced.
Let's start with the fashion industry.
The fashion industry? Well, the fashion industry is a struggle because of the fast fashion and like how that's taking over and polluting everything. So that's why Wrecked Collective is a thing, because I wanted to help get rid of fast fashion. Like, we have enough clothing on this earth. I can't remember what it was to clothe the next 6 generations. So instead of creating more and more and more overseas, we should just be taking what we already have and making it come alive again.
To make it sustainable.
Yeah, make it sustainable. Yeah. It's more eco-friendly. You're just keeping the clothing that's already out in the world in circulation.
Would you say that
instead of putting it in a landfill?
Would you say social media and maybe the entertainment world has really been a struggle with that because they want to see new designs and brand new clothes tags?
Oh yeah, and I'm sure every time I'm on Facebook, Instagram, I get ads for Temu and Shein, and you click them, and it's like the shirt's $2, and it's just
right.
It's wild, and people are just buying this single-use stuff, and it's just going right back out into the landfills.
Yeah.
And like poisoning the planet, and like I just hate that. So that's where I come from with Rec Collective and just trying to keep clothing in circulation by redesigning it, making it cool, and keeping it in circulation.
That's
important.
that.
Yeah.
You could have a slogan that says, "Do you even love planet Earth?"
Yeah, exactly. The other part of it is just having unique clothes, and like as Rect Collective, with collective in the name, I do want it to be where other artists can get involved and put their art on a shirt, and we can have like a collective shirt.
I love like the
That's a good idea.
of how it creates like the uniqueness, and it actually, what you're doing allows people to be their own artist with the way that they dress, and people don't think about that as an outlet. So.
And I do custom clothing too. Like I did your custom jacket, and I have people ask me for their logo on a flannel or whatever it is. So being able to make custom clothes for people has been a really fun.
I love that. Yeah. That's so fun. Oh my gosh, you know what the coolest thing about that would be for me that I could think of is like seeing somebody wearing something that you made. Like I'm like, I did that. I did that.
Every time like Art's got his jacket on, I'm like, snap, snap, snap. Like this is so cool.
Tagging yourself on Facebook.
Yes, I love seeing people wearing my clothes.
That's awesome.
I love that jacket.
I just have the best customers. They'll send me. They'll be like out in the world, like on vacation. Like I had a girl at the Grand Canyon, and she's like taking photos of her shirt in the Grand Canyon and sending them to me and being like, "I love this."
Not to put you on the spot,
it's so fun.
but hearing you say that makes me want to circle back around to what we talked about earlier and just challenging you to start telling people there's a growing demand for what I'm doing, and people are enjoying it.
Yeah. That's true. It's hard to talk about yourself.
It's hard to charge money.
And, like, to charge money. Yeah.
The first time I
charged...
That
is the hardest part for me. Money in business,
Yep.
I'm not a money person. I hate asking people for money. I, like, want to cry when I ask people to pay for what I'm doing. Like, but you have to. But you have to. You have to make a living.
The first time I did that, I was just asking for donations. And I remember I had, like, this whole long-winded, like... Here's why the donations, they go back into the art supplies for people who can't afford them in the community. But if you don't want to, it's okay.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
eliminate that part.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get over that. I had actually a business mentor, and she was like, you don't have to tell people if they don't want to, it's okay. You've already said donation. It's already implied. But for me, I just didn't want like that pressure. It felt like,
that's how I am. Yeah, I would like to grow from that.
You will.
Yeah, it's on the way.
You definitely will, because you've had a lot of success. Within the year and a half that you've been doing Recollect, you were in Colorado Springs Fashion Week, the first year they did it.
Oh, wow.
I've actually been in 4 fashion shows now, and that never would have happened if I wouldn't have done that first show that I almost didn't do.
Yeah, just getting out and doing it. Like we talked about before we started this today, just start.
You got to start. And that's the hard part for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They hold on to things like this.
I said no multiple times to this woman about doing this show, and she just kept pushing me to the point where I was like, okay, I'm doing this. We're going to make this happen.
That's so important.
But I did need that.
Yeah.
I needed her to push me. I was like, oh, she actually wants me to be a part of this. I must be worthy of this opportunity. Yeah. Whether I think I am or not, I must be. So we're going for it.
Well, you are. And we can talk about it in another show about that self-worth and insourcing that validation. Yeah. But the 2 things I wanted to point out that you just talked about are encouraging the people that do listen to this, that don't wait for someone to push you, that we already are capable of it. We just have to do it. Yeah. But with what you went through, not forgetting like that person that really kind of changed the direction that we're,
Right.
One thing I like about Colorado Springs, and I say this, and right across the street from where we're recording, you have clothes in this shop.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of success.
And I will say, I feel like the reason I'm in that store is because of the fashion show I did. So I think we did the fashion show in July, and they opened in August. And I've been posting on social media, I had the runway and all this stuff, and I had Jesus taking photographs, and I had a whole photo shoot that I was posting, and they obviously saw it and were like, okay, we want you in our store.
How hard is it to get your clothing in the stores for any designer?
I think that's pretty difficult. I think we have a special community where we have quite a few little cooperatives where different local artists can put their stuff in the businesses, but like where I grew up, there was maybe one business like that existed in Cincinnati, Ohio that I knew of a decade and a half ago. But here, there's a bunch.
That brings up a really good point.
And it's amazing.
That we're in kind of a unique situation, especially Colorado Springs, and even more so Colorado City. We have the potential to get a name out there for ourselves here, and then break into some of those places that don't have those opportunities.
Right. And I remember it was the first pop-up I ever did was at Eclectic.
Oh, nice.
Actually, not the Eclectic in Colorado City, but the Eclectic downtown. And I won wanted to be in the eclectic store. Before I'd even started Rec Collective, I'd walked into Eclectic and I was like, I want to have something in here. I didn't even know what it was going to be. I didn't know what I was going to make. I can do a lot of different types of art. But I was like, I'm going to have something in here. And within a few months,
you just had that
Rec
intuition.
Collective was born. I had a clothing line. I popped up in front of their store. I had a fashion show. They invited me to be an artist in their store and sell in their store. And all of a sudden, I had manifested exactly what I wanted. Not exactly, but
right.
Circa's owned by Eclectic, so same
but you
thing.
stepped
it all
into
worked out.
it.
Yeah, like I just had
Amazing.
to decide what am I going to do and just make it happen, and then keep taking steps to make things happen.
And that's a really important part, to keep taking steps. Yeah. Right when
like
she said that, I was like,
there were times where I bought certain clothing and did certain graphics and they didn't sell, or the stuff just like I made a bad investment. Whatever it was, that happens, and you just have to say, okay, that didn't work out, let's try something else. And like hopefully that works out and we'll make a little bit of money and then we can try the whatever new thing we want to experiment with and try.
I don't know if this was true for you, but for me, a lot of like volunteering or like helping other people do their whatever it is they were doing, like I'll help you set up your booths or whatever, that afforded me a lot of opportunities to kind of get plugged in.
So what's been one of your biggest obstacles?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think just myself, mostly.
Yeah, we can get in our own way. I feel like at the end of the day, it's always us.
Yeah, so I remember the first group I did, I was really good at like planning it, and then the day of came, and I was going to do it at Serenity Recovery Connection, open to the public free group, and then the day of, and I was like, I don't want to do it. I already planned it, I got this far, I think I'm just going to not do it. And luckily I had a support community that was like, you've put in all this work, and those people kind of encouraged me, because if I hadn't shared my goals or ambitions with this community, I probably would have backed out at the last minute. So it's through that I learned that myself is like my worst barrier into getting stuff done. But this ties right back into having that community, having a collective of people. That's where we get our success from.
You had told me, because I was giving you a compliment on being organized and all this and that, and you're like, oh, this is new. You're like, it hasn't always been like this.
Oh, yeah. So organization and planning and documenting stuff, that is a deliberate choice. I wake up every day and have to choose to be this person because it's not innate.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not good at it at all, but I commit to it. And that goes
you're
also...
You're training yourself,
yes.
like you said, your neural pathways.
Exactly.
Eventually it'll be second nature.
Yep, exactly. And then this also ties into like that whole like manifesting to use my voice more. When I commit to things, I keep my commitments, and that's how I build trust with myself. And so I'm using my voice.
I love that you're talking about the using your voice, because that has been a like
recurring theme
going on for like the past few months, because I have a lot of stories to tell and things to talk about, and talking about it is hard. Yeah. Even if it's a happy subject. Yep. So I'm like, I'm on that wavelength, and all of a sudden this is happening.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know this was gonna happen, but here we are.
She's like, here we are. I woke up early on Sunday. No, I think that's, I wrote this down. You said trust with myself. Building that. Because a lot of times insecurities, life, relationships will just beat us down so much. Right. And it's like, okay, do I trust myself and my ability to make this happen? Because, as you said, vended at one event, didn't make no money, don't want to do it again. Or, is my art good enough? Is my clothing good enough? Am I a good enough teacher? Will people get what I hope they will get out of this class? All these things just, it cripples our mind. Or we'll have an event and we're like, okay, nobody showed up. Is this worth my time? Do I trust myself that I can build this for when they will come?
Yeah. You have to start with building your trust with yourself in little ways. Yeah. When I started, it was not hitting the snooze button. If I make a commitment to myself by setting this alarm for 8:30 and I hit snooze, then I'm degrading the trust I have with myself. Yeah. So that was a really insignificant decision that I made I'm always going to get up when my alarm goes off. But that started as pathway of building trust with myself. So now when other bigger things happen, I know what I'm going to do because I've proven to myself that I can count on me. Building trust.
Yeah.
I was still talking about building trust.
Self-trust.
Yeah, self-trust, yeah.
With me, I started the Colorado Springs Poetry Slam after me and my ex-wife split. I was suicidal, I'm not going to lie. I had no friends. I was in a new state.
Isolated.
Yeah, isolated. Yeah. And I remembered I like open mics. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know where. And I happened to go to this Facebook group. And Don, the owner of Ultra Flat Black, he was like, oh, I own a studio. He's a venue. Mm-hmm. Come to open mic. So talked myself out of going for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I finally made myself go. And they were like, what do you do? Are you a singer, rapper, poet? I was like, I'm a poet. Oh, you want to get on stage? No. But I made myself go back the following week. And eventually that led to me starting the Colorado Springs Poetry Slam. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, now I have my own platform. Will people come? I was so scared. I'm scared every show.
Yeah.
And we look up, we got 40 to 50 people there. Mm-hmm. It really surprises me. But for a year, I was funding everything myself. Prize money, paying for performers. Yeah. All this was coming out of pocket. We weren't charging at first. Mm-hmm. And people were like, why do you keep, putting all this money into it? You're not making money. I was like, I believe in this community of poets and singers and creatives.
Yes.
I was like, it's not about money. I was like, I know I'm losing money because it's coming out of my bank account. Mm-hmm. But I really believed in what we were doing, and this community needed this. Yeah. So if it's gonna, cause me to be broke, so be it.
Yeah.
Opportunities and money and all that will come, and I held on to that. And then I got offered, hey, can you come speak here? Or, hey, can you go do a show here? It's like every week I get emails from people like, hey, we want to do this. You want to get involved and stuff like that, which, it's a beautiful thing that people are recognizing, and they're like, hey, we want to be a part of what you're doing because we believe that.
Yeah. At its core, this community needs healing activities, and art in any form is healing.
Yeah.
It is. And I tell people on stage, I'm like, live within your truth. We had a poet who did this. I was crying like a baby. They did a poem about how their dad thought he was raising a little boy. I mean, a little girl, but was really raising a little boy. Mm-hmm. I was just bawling. But it's one of those things. And, I've told you, I was like, I'll get on stage, I'll sing, I'll dance or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, let me embarrass myself to make other people feel comfortable, because they might think, oh, they're going to laugh at me, or they're not going to understand my poem or whatever. I'm like, no, and y'all been there. Y'all know the audience is very encouraging. Yeah. Like, if you got to start over 10 times, so be it. We're here for you.
Yeah, I love
I don't think enough people know that, because when I went for the first time for the Poetry Slam, I was so afraid of what I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when I got up on the stage, there was just this immediate supporting energy from the crowd. Like, I'm not speaking for a second. They're like, you got this. This. And that was the opposite of what I thought it would be.
And you got to the second round.
We did.
I love that.
Yeah, but I think more people just need to be aware of the fact that this is a supportive community. Yeah. This is a community that wants to see each other succeed. Yeah. And we are changing that idea, that negative core belief that this is a competitive environment. It's not.
Yeah, that's a great segue to the...
to talking about competition.
Diminishing competitive.
I'm like, I like the way she puts it. She's like, how does this...
Yeah. I mean, I can share the story about the two business owners we were talking about.
Okay.
Examples of competition that we would say, don't do this. But I'd run into a business owner when I was passing out flyers for the market that I was hosting. And it wasn't just to, like I said, it's not just to have these people market for me. It's to learn about their business and who they're hosting in their business, like a collaborative
and make more connections,
place.
Right?
Yeah.
Connect us
make
all.
more connections and see who they know who would want to be out in the community selling their art or singing or performing. Because there's so many different opportunities at Artisan Alley for you to showcase what you do. Like, we've had dance performers, musicians, and artists, all of it together. But this woman wouldn't even look at my flyer because she had an event on the same day. And that's just where the conversation ended. And that was just such a missed opportunity, not only for me, but for her also. We could have had a conversation and made a connection, and we could have helped each other out with the artists of the local community.
I think
and that's tough.
Yeah, I think the vision that particular business owner was failing to see was that there could be a way for her to honor her commitment to her date and what was going on, and also be supportive. Because these connections are forever, like we want to.
It is. And we're in a small city.
Exactly.
We all going to run into each other.
Yep.
And it helps everybody. Like you said, she missed the opportunity. It's like, hey, this could have worked for both of y'all.
Right.
Right.
But we are the type of community that's not a missed opportunity forever. So if at any point that there's a way to kind of build that bridge, like that door's always open.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we will see them in the community, and we'll be like, we're still here.
Still here. And that's how I feel with a lot of things I've done, where we started the poetry slam. People thought it was going to phase out after like 2 or 3 shows, but no, we're in year 2 now, and we're still going strong.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
we're still, like doing better than some comedy and music shows. And, I love what you're doing right now, because I've always been, that reminds me. What is the difference between therapeutic art and art therapy?
A degree.
Noted.
So to be an art therapist, you do have to have a clinical degree. So since I'm not a licensed therapist, what I do is I teach people the tools to use art as a therapeutic, for the therapeutic benefit. Basically art, if I was to say this was art therapy, then I'm creating a liability that I'm licensed. So that's really the bottom line. What I teach and what I do believe is that the power to heal with art is in all of us. So, and that's why it's really important for me to have these groups that have no barriers. Like, I don't want to have any costs for them. That's why I'm sourcing through grants and nonprofit to be able to provide this, because it's already in us. I'm just reminding people that they have this ability.
Yeah.
I think, oh God, you got to work with Copper.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Copper had a event a few months ago called Level Up, and the owner of Eclectic, did I get it right this time?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's her name? Start with a P.
Perry, Ani.
Perry.
Perry
I love that name. But she was on a panel, and she was talking about how she started the stores and stuff like that. And I see you on a similar pathway than she was. Because she was like, I wanted to create a space for different artists to sell their work.
Yeah.
That's her way of having that cultural impact, that social impact.
Yeah.
And it's worked.
Yeah, it has worked. They opened a second store and then a third store, and now Circa, that's their 4th store. So, yeah, there's a need for it, and the community loves it.
Is it hard balancing, and we talked about this, we touched on it several times during this episode, balancing I want to give back to the community versus I need money to keep this going. And I know you're researching grants and so forth, different programs. Without those grants and programs that, will provide the money, what is the plan?
Without the grants?
Her face is
I
like,
would love
without?
to know, too. Because
Without them.
what happens? So how do you make this happen?
Before I was getting the grants, I was doing these groups on a donation basis. So I was getting places donated. They would donate space for me to use, so they wouldn't charge me. I was spending a lot of money on art supplies. And then in the certain situations, like I do a lot of groups at Edenology, which is in Old Colorado City. People were donating money to what I'm doing. But again, that's hard because I don't want to put the onus of keeping these groups going on the individuals, which is why...
Especially like the recovery groups.
Yes, especially people in recovery, which is why I'm so excited to figure out I could start a nonprofit and I could get grants. And I think a lot of artists don't know that there are so many grants available. They are infinite.
Are there ones specific to people who are not in a nonprofit?
Yes.
Yeah.
What a great
That's what I
question.
gotta figure out.
But it's really hard to find that sort of stuff. But another thing you can do is just get connected with a nonprofit, because even the ones that will only pay to nonprofits will pay for specific exhibitions, if you will. So that could be like runway stuff, or
Cool.
But the whole point of that is that it's important to have this art community, because you don't know the stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
it's amazing the knowledge you get, which, again, why I'm glad y'all sat down and we decided to do this show is because I hope at the end of everything, people watching this, listening or whatever, they will get, even if it's just one little nugget, they're like, you know what? That's changed my whole course. I need to pivot, or I need to do more of this. Like you said, just do it.
Yeah. Just do it.
Yeah. And
famous slogan.
Yeah, because
you're
gonna inspire so many people just by doing it. Just like with the poetry slam, I'm sure there are so many other local people who've started something because they were inspired seeing what you were doing.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, just like my market. I mean, you were definitely an inspiration starting to host events. I've never hosted an event in my life, and now I'm hosting these markets. It's kind of crazy to me.
That's impressive.
It is.
Yeah.
I keep telling her she's accomplished a lot. And sometimes when you're in it, you don't get to sit back and realize what you've accomplished.
Especially when things are really busy and you have so
Yes,
many moving
so
parts.
many parts, yeah.
Like now you're doing the paint and sip event.
I am. Creations and Libations.
Nice.
July 28th at 3 p.m. And that'll be at Ultra Flat Black Gallery. So.
And I think that will open up a door.
Allie's going to be co-hosting that with me.
Yeah.
Oh, she is?
We just decided. Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm coming
not?
now.
I feel
I
like-
wasn't going to come. No, I was going to come.
It sounds so awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, this is going to be a cool event. So, aside from your other events, do you want to do more of these type of events? Because I look at it as this will help fund the other stuff.
Yeah. I guess my goal is just to continue to pursue offering group creative sessions for people that are barrier free.
Speaking of groups and barriers, I heard about this Xena Journey project. Somebody sent me in my email. Do you know about this Xena Journey project?
I'd love to talk about it.
Yes.
What is it?
So I created a group for women. It's a supportive group for women or people who identify in women's spaces. And this is really to help us form sisterhood bonds, support and encourage each other, and get rid of the negative core beliefs that we have due to like environmental factors from growing up or being in toxic relationships, and just really remembering the warrior princess that we are. So it's a 5-week group. I just finished writing the facilitator's guide and the warrior's journal, which is like the follow along to the group. It'll be an hour each week for 5 weeks, and at the end we'll have a recognition ceremony to honor the sisterhood that we've created in 5 weeks.
I like
Sounds
that.
amazing.
And then my goal with that is to open it up and empower other women or individuals who identify in that space to run the group themselves. So this is not something that I'm just going to run. I'm going to do it. We're going to go through the 5 weeks and then just open it up to anybody who feels inspired or called to, run the next 5-week session.
See how excited she is about this?
So cool.
I am really proud of this group, yes.
Yeah.
No, I think, and a lot of, if y'all realize over the course of our conversation, a lot of what we're dealing with, our struggles, our wins, our losses, a lot of it's mental.
Yeah.
At the heart and soul of all this creative entrepreneurship is mental health for ourselves and other people.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I like that you are developing this course that women can take, because we talk a lot about trauma, personal trauma, generational curses,
Yes.
and things of that nature, where some of it, like, you ever been mad and angry? You don't even know why you're mad or angry, and you just can't shake it.
Yep.
You know, and you're like, why am I mad?
Going through all
Yeah,
the things that I
definitely been
sleep.
through that.
Am I hungry? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I need water?
Yeah.
Do I need a hug?
Do I need
Yeah.
space?
Yeah. And a lot of times we have negative attachments to love, and we don't even realize it because
Yeah.
we don't know it's our normal.
Right.
So when I hear, when you told me about this course, even before that, when you were telling me about these therapeutic art classes, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. It can help people focus and teach them different skills.
Yeah.
Skills that sometimes we already know, but we forget because we're
Right.
not utilizing them.
Right.
And I look at this course and I'm just like, you know what? This can help people as an alternative because therapy isn't for everybody.
It's not.
Right.
And something powerful about being in a group where we are talking about generational trauma or environmental trauma or whatever it is we realize that our stories are not that unique.
No.
Right.
They are
That's
not
the
that,
crazy
yeah.
part, because you feel
Yep.
so alone in your
Yep.
trauma, but
Yeah. There's somebody that...
There's
and
somebody out there who understands.
And you
what
hear
you're
it a
talking
lot
about.
growing up. It starts to sound generic. Well, somebody has it worse than you. Well, they do. And what you've gone through is really insignificant in the big picture. And when we talk about it, it loses power. And we break down the walls that we've put up to protect ourselves from people, because these are people that have been through the same struggles we have.
Yeah. Do you think people suffer more from short-term, I'm just going to use the term trauma, or their long-term traumas? And do you think that is what's stopping them from doing some of the things that they want to do?
I believe 100% that people use their long-term traumas as a reason why they cannot move forward.
Yes.
So you mean to tell me that instead of dealing with the trauma and learning how to cope with it, live with it, or, get over it, they just want to stay in that mind state?
Yes.
They use it as an excuse to not improve or get better.
To not grow.
And I don't want to say that with insensitivity, because I've also been through traumatic things, but it is your individual choice to deal with that and move past that victim mentality part of it in order to grow and see your own part.
And that is really what the Xena group is for. There are traumas that we have gone through that scientifically are proven that we absorbed into our biggest nerve
and
in
it's probably
utero.
Changed the
but,
chemistry of your brain.
But we were still in our mother's womb when this happened, right? And it just is imprinted on us. And the Xena group is, how do we have a forward focus? How do we move forward? And how do we stop that from happening to the generations that follow us?
Right.
Because we learn these behaviors and we teach them not only to our kids, but our partners,
Right.
our friends, and our trauma becomes theirs.
Yes.
They inherited that. Here you
Absolutely.
go.
Right.
This is going to be a little heavy, but here you go.
And
Yep.
Yeah, and we don't want to do
Yeah,
that.
it's heavy, and also I'm not going to do anything about it because that's just how I am.
And before I gave up on dating, I would meet these women who, first date, they would trauma dump.
Trauma dump.
Yep.
And it's one thing to say, oh, I've been divorced, and we had a conversation about this.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Because they're in the mentality, they want you to be the savior. They want you to save them. They're like, this is all my baggage, fix me.
yeah.
And Xena does the opposite of that. It's like, let's put all our baggage out there in the open and let's fix ourselves.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, we all get to make the warrior
So
cry.
that you're not
right?
trauma dumping on your date.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was like, I'll just drip.
I drip the trauma.
Drip the trauma. Here's a little nugget here.
A little nugget here, a little nugget there,
Because that will make people not want to get to know you if you're just
Right.
like, here it is.
And the more you get to know somebody, if you are being your authentic self, those stories about your trauma will come up organically.
Exactly. They come up organically.
They come up
Organically.
You don't
organically.
have to spill the A to Z life traumatic
Right.
story that you had.
Right,
you
but
don't have to
we
that.
do that because we're coming from a place where we're seeking validation.
Exactly.
Validation.
And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is once we have that internal validation, I know that I'm the expert at what I'm doing. I know my story has made me who I am. Why do I need to hear it from other people? Be like, oh, you poor thing, you've come so far, we're so sorry for you. Where does the need from that, or for that, come from? And once
Lack of
yeah.
getting hugs.
But
or
but when we
loved as
talk
a
about
child.
that, but when we talk about that in a group setting, I was like, oh my God, you weren't hugged as a child either. I thought I was the only kid.
Right.
Like, I grew up single parent home. Saying I love you, that didn't happen in my household.
Same.
Getting help with homework and all that. We watched the Cosby Show. We were like, they're hugging each other. They're saying I love you. They're being supportive.
Yep.
That was a whole alien world to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people. Some people, they wake up, oh, how black am I going to be today? I'll be 10% black. Or, if they're queer, I'm going to let the world know I'm queer every day. Or woman, they perceive with that before they perceive with being human.
Yeah.
And like you said, we all have a lot of shared stories and interests and struggles.
Right.
I'm like, let's lead with that. But I understand why some people feel that, hey, this is my identity. I have to lead with that first.
Right.
And I get it, because they're trying to define their identity.
They are, because they don't know what that is yet. They haven't figured out how to insource that validation. But as we step into our artistic creativity, right? If I'm talking about what I'm doing in my healing art groups, right? People are going to eventually want to know, where does that come from? Well, that comes from my story.
Right.
And then I can talk about that stuff, but it's with
Right.
a forward focus instead of a, you should probably feel sorry for me because I've really had to scrape up from the bottom.
Right.
Before we wrap up, let's talk on addiction real quick.
Okay.
Because part of what you do, is help people with recovering from addictions. And people think, they hear the word addictions, they're thinking drugs, alcoholism. People are addicted to social media.
Right.
People are addicted to sex. People are addicted
Toxic
to...
relationships is one of the number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They like chaos. And I've been involved in toxic relationships before, and it's because I grew up in a very chaotic environment. And so I felt comfortable, I felt safe in chaos.
Yes.
So yeah, those are all addictions.
Yeah.
So we have to learn to recognize what an addiction is.
Bingo.
And it's not just a substance.
If it was that simple.
Yeah. Right? And it's another reason for the Xena group, because in my own journey through recovery from substance use disorder, once I've arrested my addiction, so to speak, then I was presented with all of this other stuff that I had to fix now. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know about all these character defects. Like, what do I do with this? Why am I jumping from relationship to relationship? Because I wasn't treating the root of the problem that led to addiction.
Before we wrap up, before we go, we need some final thoughts on what it means to be a creative entrepreneur and build this community of self, as well as relying on others to help us manifest our dreams.
For me, it just really ties back into getting rid of the negative core belief of competitive environments. We're not in a competitive environment anymore.
Yeah, I just like to be able to foster a creative, collaborative environment for people to work together and share their art with the community and have it be a back and forth.
Yeah.
A conversation,
yes.
A safe space for people to get together and share together. Share resources, share money-making ideas, whatever it is.
We're essentially
Snacks.
nurturing the
Snacks.
Yeah. Snacks is always good.
Snacks are always
It's a good way to get people to your events, too.
Yeah.
I think my final thoughts are, I want everybody to read a book. Malcolm Gladwell, he wrote, homework on the podcast.
Let's go.
Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called The Tipping Point. And he wrote it many, many moons ago. One of the things I got out of the book is it tells you about influencers, innovators, connectors. Basically, what type of person are you, and how does that apply to your friendships as well as to your business? You'll learn a lot. Like, I learned that I'm a connector. I connect people.
Oh, I said that about you.
Yeah.
See,
Nailed it.
good segue, right? But it's a good book, and it also teaches you why things become popular. So that's an interesting thing, and it can help you with your business as well. Marketing. But that's it. Thank you for watching. You can find these ladies where?
We're both on social media.
Yeah, social media.
Caitlin Elizabeth on social media.
I have multiple social
Oh.
media. We will link them, but
Yes,
AJRC Designs Co. is my personal, Wrecked Collective is my fashion business, and Artist and Alley Market is the market Instagram.
Love that.
All right.
And the name of our show?
Shape the Culture.
Shape the Culture. Love it.
Like, follow, subscribe.
Yes.
Yes, all the things. And we'll see y'all soon.
Right.
Have a blessed day.